It's time for Logan to explore a new life in this new world. Welcome to the Complete Story series, where I take trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then I read it dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Today we're going to be continuing the all-new, all-different Marvel Old Man Logan story by explaining what happened in issues 5 through 8. At the end of our last story, Logan found himself back in the past, before the villain uprising that would turn him into the man that he had become. Logan's mission was to stop it from ever happening again, but he soon learned that the past that he was in was not his past. In the end, Logan found himself fighting a Sentinel, except the Sentinel wasn't bad. This Sentinel was actually working with the X-Men, who were happy to find their old friend Wolverine alive. After spending some time with Storm and the other X-Men, Logan decided that it would be best to have a little leave of absence from the team, so he can go take care of a few things. Storm hands him a communicator, and Logan says that he needs to do this on his own. But Storm tells him actually it's more if they need him. He says he's getting used to the whole team thing again, but he'll be back. Once he got out of Limbo, which is where the X-Men mansion was located, Logan traveled north all the way up to the Killhorn Falls in Alaska, where he finds a small community built around a gravel quarry. The town has an ice road that allows access for only 3 months out of the entire year, and he arrived just as the road went out for the entire season. So this is where Logan will be staying for a while. Even though he's never been here before, it feels like he has, and as he walks around, he begins to remember. Back then, when he was tricked into killing the other X-Men, all he wanted to do was pay the price for killing his friends, and he would soon find a place just like this. Even though Logan tried his best to kill Wolverine, the healing factor had other plans. But from that day, Wolverine was buried forever. He couldn't kill himself, but he could kill the man that he was. But as time would pass in Killhorn Falls, Logan found himself a job and he began to blend into the community. That's what he came here for. And one night after leaving work, he sees a dog whimper and he decides to give it something to eat. However, a voice behind him says that he shouldn't feed the strays. Mommy says that they will just keep coming back. Logan asks the little girl if that's how her mama got stuck with her, and the little girl sticks out her tongue. The girl begins to pet the dog, and Logan says that it seems like he likes her, and the girl tells him because she feeds him too. Looking down at the little girl, she asks what his name is, and he tells her James. And then he asks her what is her name, and she says Maureen, and Logan thinks, yeah, that's exactly where he needs to be. Later that night, Logan sits out in front of his shack thinking about how this may not be his past. He may never have met Maureen the way he did before, but this time, he can let her grow up safe. As the dog walks off, it's soon killed. And a voice begins to ask, can Logan really be back? And another voice says, there's only one way to find out. And that's when Deathstrike says, it's time to go hunting. The next morning, Logan is woken up by a knock on his door from Maureen and her mother asking if he's seen the dog Burger anywhere. Logan tells her that he hasn't seen him, and Maureen asks, what if Burger's hurt or even eaten by a bear? Maureen's mother, Trish, says that they can look for him after school, but Logan says that she should listen to her mother. He'll go looking for the dog. If there's one thing he's good at, it's finding burgers. The two say thank you to Logan before leaving, but around the corner there's someone watching. Logan heads out, and it doesn't take him long to find the dog's scent. And the scent is also something he's a little too familiar with. As he finds Burger, he sees the cuts on him were clean, like a sharp, clean blade, and then he smells something else in the air. He begins smelling machine oil and gasoline, and then he finds a helicopter. But before he can check it out, he begins to hear gunfire. He runs back into the town, but it's already too late. There are bodies lying around everywhere, and thankfully, none of them are Maureen. The gunfire suddenly stops and things get quiet. Too quiet. And then an explosion goes off behind Logan, knocking him away. When he looks back, he sees Bonebreaker, one of the Reavers, and the Reavers never travel alone. Bonebreaker begins to spin his Gatling gun again, and he begins to spray bullets down on Logan. But as he walks through shielding himself, he then gets close enough to cut through the gun. However, before Logan can swing at Bonebreaker, a cannon comes out of his chest, shooting Logan and blasting him away. Bonebreaker says, you know what the best part about having tank treads for legs is? Rolling over someone else's legs. Logan screams out in pain as the small tank begins to crush his legs, and when Bonebreaker parks on top of him, he asks if he's even alive under there. Claws begin to stab up through the tank body, and Logan comes ripping through it, throwing the upper part of Bonebreaker's body to the ground. Logan then walks over asking, do you know the best part about having knives in your fist? This. Logan pops his claws out, stabbing through Bonebreaker's neck and out of the back of his head. One of the officers comes over to see what's going on, and Logan tells him that he's gonna need his help. He's gonna need him to get all of the remaining people in town down into the quarry while he checks on something. He runs back over to his shack to grab the communicator that Storm gave him, and he finds that his shack is already destroyed and on fire. A little while later, as people gather in the quarry, Logan meets back up with them, and Trish says that the kids aren't here. They're in school and in the church basement. Logan rushes back over to the church, and just as the door opens, a Reaver starts to walk in, and Logan appears behind him. The Reaver's body is then pulled back outside, and then Logan goes back inside, telling them that they need to move. Maureen hugs Logan, and he tells her that she needs to help him right now. She needs to take all of the kids over to the quarry at this moment. Once the kids begin to leave, Logan picks up another scent, and then his claws pop out. One Reaver says, "It's over, Wolverine," and another one grabs a child, telling him to just give up. Everyone in this town is going to die. Logan steps forward and he tells the Reaver that he would like to make a counter proposal. "Let the kid go and I might let you keep your legs." Before he can answer though, Logan punches through the Reaver's head and then shouts for Maureen to take the others and run. The other Reaver stabs Logan in the back, and then after slashing back and breaking the spine, Logan takes it and stabs him with it. He then asks, "Why are you doing this?" And the Reaver begins to tell him that they just wanted to lure him out with the dog, but she got other ideas. Logan asks who, and the Reaver tells him, "Lady Deathstrike." And as he finishes saying her name, his head flies off in the air. Logan heads back down to the quarry, but he knows he's already going to be too late, and as he walks up, he sees Deathstrike holding Maureen and Trish hostage. Deathstrike says that she heard he came back, but he cheated. He was supposed to be dead for real this time, but here he is, older, so she has a proposition. She will let one of these two go, and he gets to choose who. Logan tells her not to do this, Yuriko, and Trish says, "Just promise her that he'll take care of Maureen, alright? Just promise her." Logan says, "I promise." And then Deathstrike tosses Maureen to the side, and Logan asks if he got the shot. Deathstrike asks, "What?" And then a bullet flies through Deathstrike's back as she drops Trish. Behind her, the officer from before says, "Yeah, I got the shot." Logan tells him, "Get Trish out of here. I want to handle this one alone." And Deathstrike asks if he thinks that she's the only one coming for him. "Do you think this will ever stop, Logan?" He starts to make a fist and he tells her, "Well, you got me now." And a claw pops out and Logan begins running towards her. Deathstrike jumps into the air as Logan goes in swinging and kicks him in the face. And then before he can get back up, she slashes away part of his face. Logan tries to get back up, but Deathstrike punches tearing through his stomach and out his back. And the officer tries to tell her to stop. With Logan beaten down, she then turns her attention towards the officer. She then raises her arms to kill him, but Logan gets back up and he runs forward, cutting off both of Deathstrike's arms. And then he punches her in the back and he rips his claws out. The only thing that he can remember is the sound of Deathstrike dragging herself over the gravel and the snow beginning to fall on them. And then nothing. A little while later, Logan wakes back up and sees the officer sitting next to him. He asks if Maureen and Trish are safe, and the officer tells him yes, but the little girl keeps asking about him. Logan tells him to stay with them until help arrives. He can't see them again, and tell her that he's sorry for everything. Logan leaves and he takes the dead Reaver's bodies and he begins to burn them. And then he watches the fire because he knows that Deathstrike is out there and dozens like her. And he's done waiting for them to bring chaos. He will be the one to bring chaos, and he will be coming for them. Once the bodies are burned, Logan returned to Limbo where X-Haven was, and he can't help but think that tonight could be the night, and that they're not ready. He's let his guard down. He then hears a voice in his head telling him that no, he hasn't. It's not going to happen tonight. And then he looks up to see Jean. He says that it happened on a night just like this, and she tells him that it's not going to happen. During his time, the Xavier Mansion was still on Earth, not in Limbo. Magneto wasn't fighting with the X-Men, and Thor was still a dude. But if he still has doubts that this isn't his time period, that he's going to be tricked into killing everyone, then they're going to take a little road trip together. She just wants to get her costume on. Back in Manhattan, some of the last heroes made their final stand against the villains. People died. But now, there's nothing. People are living just fine. Jean tells him that it's 1:30 in the morning, no mass villain attack, no nothing. And Logan tells her, okay, you proved your point. And she tells him, we're not done. After New York, where else did things happen? So they teleport over to where Hank Pym made his final stand and died in that alternate timeline. But again, nothing happened. And then Jean decides they have one more stop, and she teleports them again to upstate New York where the mansion was, where Logan killed everyone in his timeline. Jean tells him that it's going to be okay. And also, she lied. She has one more place to go. This time, they teleport over to Madripoor, and Logan asks what they're looking at now. And Jean tells him that she knows that he's been on edge lately, as this was the day that everything happened in his time. But instead of being alone, she brought some company. They walk into the building, and Logan sees Steve, Clint, Jubilee, and even Puck. Logan asks Steve if everything is good, and he tells him always. Moments later, everyone begins to celebrate being together, and Logan looks at Jean and tells her that this better be a soda. And she tells him to stop being a party pooper, old man. As the night goes on, Logan steps out onto the pier as the sun rises. And a short while later, Jean comes out telling him that he needs to stop sneaking off like that. But the sun's up, and they made it through another night. Logan tells her, yeah, we made it through. But as I'm sitting here, I've been thinking about you a lot, and this time, in my world, you weren't around. You were already dead. You've always kept me in line, no matter how much things have changed. You've always seen the light in the dark. You remind me of my daughter. You always see the best in everyone. Jean tells him that she thinks he's getting soft. But does he really think it's going to happen? And Logan tells her, no idea. But I think you finally got me to see that if it does, I won't have to face it alone. Personally, I really love the Old Man Logan stories. It picks up in a situation where that hero gets to come back and pretty much redeem himself. Let me know what you guys think of this story down below. Subscribe to the channel to get more Wolverine storylines, and don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram where we can chat about your favorite books.